Comfortably Zoned with the Zigzag Man in Alameda, California, pushing on the doors of life marked pull and fighting the unholy trinity as we go. Big business, organized religion, and government.
I am back, and you are flying high over the zone with me, Ralph Tyko, in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco, in the northern part of the great state of California. And I am on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm kind of the weak link on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, if you will. But that being said, I have a terrific guest that's going to prop me up right to the top of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. He is former Major League Baseball player, specifically a Houston Colt, former Houston Colt, and the Houston Colts just advanced. He goes back, he was a Colt 45. He's a former Astro too. They just advanced last night to the World Series, and I'd like to take a moment to congratulate a former Astro and a guest on this show for the first time, Aaron Pointer. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Ralph. I'm doing very well.
Excuse my elongated introduction. I'm nervous about having you. I'm honored, as a matter of fact. As you may or may not know, we as a station and the entire baseball community is taking up for folks like yourself who played in the majors and because of the way things were, did not have 4 years of pension time and have been terribly unjustly treated by the existing Major League Association, which is a union that is the most profitable and successful union on earth. And I'm going to let you, Aaron, explain the situation a little bit, explain your situation and your relationship with Doug Gladstone, who took up the cause about 10 years ago, and tell us how it's going now, and who can we, as an audience, who can we write to express the displeasure that you will all be feeling in a moment, that I feel, for your situation?
Well, for a number of players, not just myself, but there's a number of players who spent time in the major leagues and a lot of time in the minor leagues that after their baseball careers ended, left with nothing but a thank you for helping Major League Baseball be successful. I can't
500 plus of you guys.
Right, yeah.
And a
few years ago, a good friend of mine who was also on the Colt 45s, Ernie Fazio, called me and asked if I could be also on the end of trying to convince Major League Baseball, especially the Players Union, to include us as maybe members of a pension, not at the level that Major League Baseball players are, but give us some credit for all of the minor league time that we spent benefiting Major League Baseball, so that we can come out with something. I spent a number of years with Houston.
Parts of 3+ years.
Yeah, parts of 3+ years, plus a number of years in minor league baseball. My first year was 1961, and I retired from Major League Baseball after 9 seasons in 1969, and then went over in Japan and played for 3 years. But after we, filed a suit or whatever, I guess it upset Major League Baseball and the union, and they just said, that they were just going to ignore us. But eventually, 2 years ago, they started to give some retired players who'd spent time in the major leagues some monies, and I don't know the exact numbers. It's been going on now, and they've kept it going for the last 3 or 4 years. And for instance, myself, right now I get $1,000 a year from Major League Baseball for my contribution of 9 seasons playing professional baseball, part of 3 seasons with the Houston Major League team. And so,
okay, let me just put that into perspective: $1,000 a year, and what the Major League Union is providing for current baseball players. If you had come up this year, for instance, and got your name in the box score, you could have pinch run, you could have been in the game, not had an at-bat, whatever it was, you would, at that moment, be entitled to be in the healthcare system, in their healthcare system. You'd have to contribute to it, but you'd get health insurance for the rest of your life.
Oh, wow. Jeez, I didn't realize that. Yeah. That's
all right. Just to tell you that also the minimum salary, when you come up, you're making $585,000.
Wow. Yeah.
You're up the whole year.
Yeah, and it's obviously not a situation where they don't have the funds.
Right. It's simply a question of appropriation, and the people making a decision, the union heads, Steve Rogers is one, they refuse to listen. And it isn't as if they've treated other humans unfairly in the past. A while back, it was when they were commemorating Jackie Robinson's achievements and retiring number 42, they made provisions in the union to take care of former, and I'm going to use the expression, anybody out there listening, Negro League players. It was called the Negro League, where African Americans who could not play, before Jackie, could not play in organized baseball, which is 1,200 podcasts down the line. We could talk about that. But they rightfully made provisions to take care of some of the players who were deprived, all of the players who played in the league, and they gave them small pensions, but pensions nevertheless.
Right.
Well, and now what they do is try to make it, if you guys protest, they try to make it a racial, reverse racism thing, not realizing that, and I know that you're an African American because I looked on Wikipedia. You're the Pointer Sisters' brother. Yeah. So that's how I know that. There has to be a myriad of African Americans who fall under the same disgusting situation that you're in. So the first thing they came with is that racial thing. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, that set the tone for it, because that was just a cover-up.
Mm-hmm.
Would you address that?
Well, I didn't realize that, it had gotten to that point. In fact, when you mentioned some of the Negro League players, in fact, I played with a former Negro League player who now lives in Houston. His name is J.C. Hartman, who played in 1963 with me when we went up together from Oklahoma City to play with the Houston Colt 45s.
I remember the name very well. And to get off this subject just a little bit, when you got called up, who told you you were going to the majors?
The manager of the team I was on in Oklahoma City. I think his name was Mel McGahey. Or it could
he later managed the Cleveland Indians, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And the manager is the one that told me that I was going up at the end of the season where I was playing AAA ball in Oklahoma City. And
very cool. How'd you feel then? You weren't signed you were signed to organized ball before Houston became a franchise. Am I correct?
Right.
Who were you signed with?
I signed in 1961, and I can't remember the scout that.
You did sign with Houston. Was your first team? You weren't drafted.
Right. And they just had at that time. They just had just a couple of teams in the minor leagues. They had a Class A team in Salisbury, North Carolina, which I played on, and a AAA team that played in Houston. And
okay, do you?
There were just two teams.
I guess Rusty Staub came up along the same lines.
In fact, in 1963, I was on the only all rookie team that played a Major League Baseball game ever. In 1963, is the only Major League team that ever played an all rookie lineup, and that was the first year that Houston was in the National League at that time. And a lot of those guys are still alive. You mentioned Rusty Staub. He was on that team, and he played. He was the first baseman for us, and Joe Morgan was at second, and Sonny Jackson at shortstop, and a guy by the name of Glenn Vaughn was a third baseman. Jerry Grody was a catcher, and Brock Davis.
Oh, he got away, didn't he, Jerry Grody?
Yeah, and then Jimmy Wynn was a center fielder, and I was a right fielder, and we played the Mets in September of 1963. And all those guys are still alive. A lot of them went on to great major league careers and Hall of Fame, like Joe Morgan and Jim Wynn had a very successful season career, and so did Rusty Staub and Jerry Grody.
And Sonny Jackson was a regular shortstop with the Braves for quite some time.
For a number of years, right.
Yeah.
So,
what was your favorite memory in baseball that you look back upon? I was a big leaguer and I did this, or we had this game. Just something that sticks in your mind that epitomizes it.
The thing that that I remember was in 1964 was when the Astrodome was built, and it was the only dome stadium for baseball in at that time, and to have a chance to play in one of the first games ever played under a dome roof was something that I'll never forget. And how in Houston they built the Astrodome, and they wanted to grow grass, and so the ceiling was like a greenhouse. It was like so the grass would grow, but the glare during sunny days was so much that you couldn't see fly balls. So they tried different colored baseballs, and they eventually painted the top of the dome so that
which killed the grass.
Glare would and kill the grass, right?
And basically precipitated AstroTurf.
The following year, AstroTurf was
Did you played in the outdoor stadium before the
old Colt Stadium in 1963?
A lot of bugs or mosquitoes. Was that?
Oh yeah, very humid, very hot. Mosquitoes were just. I mean, it was so bad that I never seen so many players use so much bug spray ever. on a playing field of any kind, because it was just such a tough place to play because of the mosquitoes. It wasn't so much other bugs, but mosquitoes would just, they would just attack you and bite you right through your uniform. So it was really a tough place to play for the humidity and the bugs and the heat in that old Colt Stadium. That was a tough place to play.
All right. Got to ask you about your sisters.
Yeah, my sisters and I, we're from, you mentioned earlier you're broadcasting from the San Francisco kind of Bay Area, and that's where we grew up. I grew up in Oakland. And
I'm looking at this thing. It looks like you were from Arkansas originally, Little Rock.
Yeah, I was born in Arkansas, and my family, including myself and my brother, who's 2 years younger, who still lives in the Bay Area, Fritz Pointer.
I look down. You went to McClymonds. My God,
that's right.
Famous McClymonds. Want to talk about who preceded you at McClymonds?
Oh, yeah, I know there's a lot of great players from McClymonds baseball, Kurt Flood and
Veda Pinson.
Veda Pinson and Frank Robinson.
Absolutely. And a catcher that was from your era. I was a Met fan growing up, so I followed your team, and the Mets naturally very closely. Jesse Gonder was from McClymonds.
Jesse Gonder, right.
He was
one of the local minor league baseball heroes. Semi-pro, not minor league, but Jesse Gonder was really a great athlete.
Absolutely.
One of the better.
I think he played basketball too, if I'm not mistaken.
Who, Jesse?
Jesse.
I played basketball for the McClymonds high school basketball team, and in fact, the team during the era when I was in high school from 1958 through 1962 only lost one basketball game, won 111 games and lost one. In fact, when I played,
you were a few years after Bill Russell.
A few years after Bill Russell, but I played with Paul Silas, who was my cousin, and he went on, of course, to have a great NBA career and coach in the NBA.
Absolutely. My God, you talk about a power forward. I think Paul Silas invented being a power forward. Am I right?
Oh yeah, he invented
the position.
He was a
prototype,
teammate, right? Because he was not the type of player that wanted to get 25 shots a game. Paul was happy if he got 20 rebounds a game. That would be his thing, and play great defense, so he had a great career, and I still talk to him once in a while. He lives in North Carolina right now.
Now you're living in the southern part of the state?
I'm living in Tacoma, Washington.
Oh,
I got to Tacoma. How I got to Tacoma was I was with the Houston Astros in 1968, and Houston traded me to Chicago, the Chicago Cubs, and the Cubs sent me to Tacoma, Washington, which was their AAA farm club. And I played here in Tacoma in 1968 and 69, and then went and played in Japan for 3 years, 70, 71, 72. And then after playing in Japan, I came back to Tacoma and decided to give it a try as a place to live with my family and I. The cost of living was not as much as the Bay Area, and we had met some great people here, and so we've been here living since in Tacoma, Washington, since 1972.
What beautiful country! You are so blessed.
We really enjoyed it up here, and our families enjoyed it up here, and we're doing very well, and my kids are all doing well, and so we made the right decision and decided to stay in Tacoma.
Hey, I got to mention this. You hit .402 1 year in the minors.
Yeah, 1961 at Salisbury, and and I was the last professional baseball player, not a player in the big league, but the last professional baseball player to hit 400 was me in 1961 for Salisbury. And
wow.
that mark is still after 56 years, it's still there.
Aaron, let me ask you this. How did you adjust to not having the competition going on? How did you channel that energy when you stopped playing ball?
Well, what I did and how I kind of got back into that, that setting of, of teammates and the camaraderie that you establish is that I got involved in officiating sports. I got involved in officiating primarily football. And so I went on and started officiating, and officiating involves, 4, 5, 6, 7, guys on a crew, and we would hang out together after games and hang out together during the week at times to go over our next games. And so that kind of got me back to that camaraderie that you miss from your playing days. And so I ended up lucky enough to end up making it all the way to the National Football League as an NFL referee, and I officiated in the NFL for 17 years.
Aaron, I had no idea about that. Wow.
Yeah, 17 years in the NFL, and then I officially retired from officiating in the NFL in 2004. It was my last game on the field, and then I continued to work for the NFL as an officials evaluator for 4 or 5 years, and then finally decided that it was time to spend time with my kids and grandkids, and because the travel, it's really tough on your family, not only in baseball but in football too. Traveling every weekend, going to a game someplace, takes its toll. And so I finally decided enough was enough, and I had paid my dues, and finally got out of all of officiating and pretty much all of my involvement in football as an evaluator, even in high school, and I even did it for the Pac-12 in college for 4 years. And so I finally got out of it and took retirement seriously, and are spending that time now with my grandkids.
All right. Now, I just want to step ahead. Anybody out there who's thinking, Aaron Pointer, he doesn't need a pension. What does he need a pension for? It's not about the money so much. It's about it would be fair.
It would be fair, and it would show some appreciation to your contribution to the sport of baseball.
Absolutely.
Players that are
Fairness
in the major leagues
is more
now.
important than the money. Now, that said, there are X number of players out there who really need the pension.
Who really need the money, right, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you can call it socialism, call it whatever you want, but what it is humanism.
Right.
So if anybody's listening, please take note that fairness is the name of the game.
It really is, and you're not asking for what major league players are getting, just, something to show that, hey, your contribution to baseball, professional baseball, we recognize and thank you.
How about if you were treated just as nicely as Major League Baseball pensions treated the Negro League players?
That would be fantastic.
That's all.
That would be fantastic.
That's all you're asking for.
That's all we're asking for. And not to have someone give us some charity or anything, but just a show of kind of gratitude and appreciation for your contribution to the sport, and not just say thank you.
I'm grateful,
and good luck, with
more than that, I'm grateful for having you on my show, and I thank you very much.
Thank you for calling me. Hope that Major League Baseball and the union and folks involved in making those decisions will finally one day make the right decision. That so many players, it's not something that I need, but some of the players, as you mentioned earlier, do need it, but it would be something that would give some of the players
be fair for everybody. All you're looking for is a level playing field.
Right.
That's it. Now let me ask you one other question before I let you go. You mentioned that breaking in the Houston Astrodome. Did you play against the Yankees in that last exhibition game?
Yes, yeah. Yankees was the last game I remember playing in the Astrodome before they brought in the AstroTurf, I think. That was
right.
1964.
Well, because I remember that exhibition game. It was written up in Sports Illustrated. It was a big thing. So, good memories, Aaron. Thank you very, very much again.
Yeah, I've got some great memories, some great friends, and great experiences that I'll never forget. And I hope that I did contribute something to the sport and to
you absolutely did.
Along the way.
No question about that. Last 400 hitter in organized baseball, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again, Aaron Pointer. Comfortably Zone Radio Network. I'm Ralph Tyko. Hang in there, everybody. We'll see you next week. Adios.
Thank you. Okay, ladies.